The envelope sat on the kitchen table between us. He didn't reach for it right away. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, that smug smile I'd come to despise stretching across his face. "You understand the terms, right?" Derek said. $3,000 every month, cash. That's the price for spending time with Emma and Sophie, my granddaughters, 8 and 5 years old. The two bright lights in my life since my wife Margaret passed 3 years ago. And this man, my daughter Sarah's husband of 3 years, was treating access to them like a monthly subscription service. I pushed the envelope closer to him. "It's all there." He snatched it up, fingers already working at the seal. I watched his face carefully. The smile faded first, then his brow furrowed. His eyes scanned the documents inside. Once, twice, 3 times. The color drained from his cheeks. "What the hell is this?" His voice had lost that confident edge. "That," I said calmly, "is a legally binding promissory note dated 7 years ago. Your signature is right there at the bottom. You borrowed $65,000 from me for the down payment on this house. The house you're currently living in. The house that according to the land registry documents also in that envelope is still in my name." Derek's hand trembled slightly as he held the papers. "You said it was a gift. You said I said a lot of things, but what matters is what's written down, what's legal, what's enforceable." I leaned forward. "You want to charge me to see my granddaughters? Fine. But first, you owe me $65,000 plus 7 years of interest at 5%. That comes to, well, the calculations in there, $91,375. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Derek's jaw worked, but no words came out. "Payments due in 30 days, I said, standing up. "After that, I start eviction proceedings. This is my house, Derek. It's always been my house. You've just been living in it. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. 7 years ago, my daughter Sarah called me excited. She'd met someone. She said, a real go-getter, ambitious, driven. Derek worked in sales, made decent money, had big plans. They'd been dating for 6 months, and were talking about moving in together. I was cautiously optimistic. Sarah had been through a rough divorce 2 years earlier. Her first husband, Emma's father, had been a good man, but they'd, clear's throat, grown apart. He'd moved to Vancouver for work, saw Emma on holidays and summers. Sarah had full custody. She was doing well, working as a nurse, but life as a single mother was hard. Then Derek proposed quick maybe, but Sarah was happy, radiant even. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. I walked my daughter down the aisle and welcomed Derek into our family. "Call me Dad if you'd like," I'd said at the reception, shaking his hand. "Maybe one day," he'd replied with that smile. When I've earned it, Sophie was born a year later. A beautiful baby girl with Sarah's eyes and what would become Derek's dark hair. I was there in the hospital holding my new granddaughter, feeling that pure joy that only grandchildren can bring. After Margaret died, Emma and now Sophie had become my reason to keep going. I saw them constantly every Sunday without fail. Sometimes Wednesdays, too. I'd pick Emma up from school, bring both girls to the park, make them my famous pancakes on Saturday mornings when they'd sleep over. Derek was often working, traveling for sales conferences, networking events. Sarah would joke that she barely saw him more than I did. "At least you're here," she'd say, hugging me. "The girls adore you, Dad." Then came the house hunting. Sarah and Derek's apartment was getting cramped with 2 kids. They wanted a yard, a proper home. Sarah started looking at listings, but everything in their budget needed serious work or was too far from her hospital. We found a perfect place. Sarah told me one evening that she'd come by my house, the bungalow I'd lived in for 40 years. Where I'd raised her and her brother, but were short on the down payment. The bank approved our mortgage, but we need $65,000 more. I didn't hesitate. Margaret and I had been savers. We had a decent nest egg. Sarah was my daughter. Emma and Sophie were my granddaughters. Family helps family. I'll write you a check, I said. Sarah's eyes welled up. Dad, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Use it for the down payment. Pay me back when you can. No rush. Derek had been with her. He'd shaken my hand vigorously. This is incredibly generous, sir. We won't forget this. I had my lawyer draw up a simple promissory note. Standard practice, he'd said. Protects everyone. Derek signed it without even reading it carefully. We all shook hands. They bought the house. A lovely 4-bedroom in North York with a big backyard. The girls got their own rooms. There was even a guest room that Sarah said was Grandpa's room for when I stayed over. Life was good. I saw my granddaughters all the time. We established routines. Sunday dinners at their place, Wednesday pickups from school, summer camping trips to Algonquin Park. Christmas morning started at my house before they went to Derek's parents in Mississauga. But slowly things changed. It started small. Derek would make comments. You're here again when I'd show up on a Wednesday. Don't you have your own life? When I'd stay for dinner. Sarah would laugh it off. Dad's always welcome here. Stop being silly. But the comments continued, escalated. Maybe the girls need less coddling and more discipline. You're undermining our parenting. They need to learn independence, not run to Grandpa for everything. I tried to respect boundaries. I'd call before visiting. I'd ask Sarah if it was okay to take the girls out, but Derek's irritation seemed to grow regardless. Then came the demand. 6 months ago, I'd arrived for Sunday dinner as usual. Sarah had been looking forward to it all week. She'd texted me. She was making roast chicken, my favorite. But when I walked in, Derek was waiting in the hallway. We need to talk, he said. Not hello, not come in, just that. Sarah was in the kitchen. I could hear her. Emma and Sophie were upstairs, their voices carrying down, but Derek blocked my path. This isn't working, he said. Your constant presence here. The girls are becoming too dependent on you. Sarah's schedule revolves around your visits. It's affecting our family dynamic. I felt anger flicker but kept my voice steady. I'm their grandfather. Sarah wants me here. Sarah's too polite to set boundaries. So, I'm setting them. He crossed his arms. If you want to continue seeing Emma and Sophie, there needs to be compensation. I actually laughed. I thought he was joking. Compensation for seeing my granddaughters. Your visits take time. Time Sarah could spend on the house, on us, on other things. Time costs money. So, yes, compensation, $3,000 a month. That covers the disruption, the meals, the inconvenience. The laugh died in my throat. You're serious? Completely. You want access. That's the price. I looked past him to where Sarah stood in the kitchen doorway. She'd heard everything. Her face was pale, eyes wide, but she said nothing. Sarah, I called out. Derek, maybe we should, she started. We've discussed this. Derek cut her off. This is our decision. But it wasn't. I could see it in Sarah's eyes. This was Derek's decision, and my daughter, my strong, independent daughter, was somehow trapped in it. I left without dinner that night, drove home in a fog, sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd taught Sarah to bake cookies, where Margaret and I had coffee every morning for 37 years, and tried to understand what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Sarah, Dad, I'm so sorry. Let me talk to him. He's just stressed about work. He doesn't mean it, but he did mean it. Over the next week, Derek didn't back down. He sent me a formal text message. Visitation terms $3,000 per month, first of each month, cash, maximum 2 visits per month, scheduled minimum 72 hours in advance. No overnight stays, no interference with parenting decisions. I called my lawyer, David Chin. We'd gone to high school together, stayed friends for 50 years. I showed him Derek's texts. He can't legally charge you to see your grandchildren, David said. But he can make it difficult. If Sarah goes along with it, if she denies you access, you'd have to fight for grandparents' rights. That's messy, expensive, and not guaranteed in Ontario. What about the promissory note? The house. David pulled up the documents, studied them. A slow smile spread across his face. Oh, this is interesting. Very interesting. The house is still registered in your name. The mortgage is in their names, but the property title. You never transferred it. I didn't. You didn't. You gave them the money. They bought the house, but because you provided the down payment and the sale had some complications with timing, the title stayed in your name temporarily. It was supposed to be transferred after 6 months, but according to this, it never was. My heart began to pound. What does that mean? It means legally you own that house. They're living in a property you own, paying a mortgage on it, but you hold the title. And this promissory note states clearly that the loan was for the down payment, not a gift. Derek signed it. Sarah signed it as co-bearer. Can I use this? David leaned back in his chair. You can do more than use it. You can enforce it. Demand repayment. And if they can't pay, which I'm guessing they can't, you can begin eviction proceedings. It's your house, David. You've been letting them live there out of the goodness of your heart. But if Derek wants to play hardball, you can play harder. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emma's laugh, Sophie's tiny hand in mine, the way they'd run to me shouting, "Grandpa." The thought of not seeing them was unbearable. But paying Derek, letting him extort me, that felt like betrayal. Betrayal of everything Margaret and I had taught Sarah about family, about love, about what really mattered. I made a decision. I'd call Derek's bluff. I'd prepare the documents, David suggested, and I'd give Derek his envelope. The next Sunday, I showed up at the house. Derek answered the door, blocking the entrance again. "Did you bring it?" he asked. "I brought something," I said. "Can we talk inside?" He looked suspicious but stepped aside. Sarah was in the living room, Emma and Sophie beside her. The girls jumped up when they saw me. "Grandpa, not now, girls," Derek said sharply. "Grandpa and I have business." Derek, Sarah protested. I said, "Not now." His tone made both girls freeze. Sophie's lower lip trembled. That's when I knew this wasn't about money or boundaries or family dynamics. This was about control. Derek was using my granddaughters as leverage to control Sarah, to control me, to assert dominance in a situation where he felt threatened by the bond one had with his family. We sat at the kitchen table, just Derek and me. I could hear Sarah entertaining the girls in the living room, her voice artificially bright, trying to distract them from the tension. That's when I gave him the envelope. When I watched his face change, when I explained about the promissory note, the house title, the legal reality of his situation. "You're bluffing," Derek said, but his voice shook. "Sarah would never. Sarah doesn't have a choice. This is between you and me now. You made it about money, so let's talk money. You owe me $91,375. Due in 30 days or I begin eviction proceedings. You can't do this. We have kids. We have a mortgage. The bank has a mortgage on a house I own. They'll be very interested to learn about this situation, actually, as will the Canada Revenue Agency, since I'll need to declare the loan repayment as income and you'll need to explain. Where you got $91,000. Derek's hands curled into fists on the table. For a moment, I thought he might take a swing at me. I'm 65, but I'm not frail. I worked construction for 30 years before moving into project management. I can still handle myself. But Derek didn't swing. He stood up, knocking his chair backward. Get out. Get out of my house. Your house. I stood too slowly. Read the documents, Derek. It's my house. You've been living in my house, raising your children in my house, and now you're going to pay me for the privilege, or you're going to leave. I walked out. Sarah caught me at the door. Dad, what just happened? I hugged her. She felt small, fragile. Call me later, sweetheart. When he's calmed down. We need to talk. She did call late that night, whispering like she was afraid Derek would hear. Dad, he's furious. He says, you're trying to destroy our family. He says, Sarah, listen to me. I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. Are you happy? Silence. Long, painful silence. Then quietly, I don't know anymore. Does he hurt you? The girls? No, not physically. But he's changed, Dad. Or maybe he's always been this way and I didn't see it. He's controlling. Everything has to be his way. If I disagree, he gives me the silent treatment for days. He tells me I'm too soft on the girls, that I cuddle them. He's always criticized my relationship with you. Said you interfere too much, that I can't make decisions without running to Daddy. My heart broke. Why didn't you tell me? Because I kept thinking it would get better. After the wedding, after Sophie was born, after we got the house, I kept thinking each milestone would make him happy, make him the man I thought I married. But it just gets worse. Sarah, you don't have to stay with someone who treats you this way. I have 2 kids, Dad. Sophie's only 5. I can't just yes, you can. You're a nurse with a good job, you have me. You have your brother. You have options. Another long silence. Then what are you going to do with the house? I told her everything. The promissory note, the title issue, Derek's legal obligation, the eviction timeline. Will you really kick us out? She asked, voice small. I'll never kick you and the girls out. But Derek needs to face reality. He's been living in a house he doesn't own, treating it like his castle, using it as leverage to control all of us. That ends now. He won't pay you, Dad. He can't. We've already reorganized once to cover his business debts. We're barely keeping up with payments as is. I know this isn't about the money, Sarah. It's about breaking his control. He thinks he has power because he lives in that house. Because he's your husband, because he can deny me access to my granddaughters. But he doesn't. He never did. What should I do? I need you to do something difficult. I need you to document everything. His threats, his controlling behavior, the things he says to you and the girls. Record conversations if you can. Ontario is a one-party consent province. You can legally record conversations you're part of. Gather evidence. And when the time comes, when he realizes he's lost, I need you to be ready to choose. Choose what? Choose your daughters. Choose yourself. Choose the life you deserve instead of the life he's decided you should have. She cried. I heard her trying to muffle the sobs. I'm scared, Dad. I know, sweetheart, but I'm here. I've always been here, and I'm not going anywhere. The next 30 days were hell. Derek hired a lawyer, some young hot shot, who tried to argue the promissory note was unenforceable, that the house title was a clerical error, that I was attempting to defraud my own daughter. David shut that down quickly. He produced the original loan documents, the title search, email chains discussing the temporary title arrangement, and Derek's signature on multiple papers acknowledging the loan. "Your client owes my client money," David told Derek's lawyer in their office. $91,000. Plus legal fees if we have to take this to court, plus whatever the judge decides to add for wasting everyone's time. Derek's lawyer looked at the documents, looked at Derek. "Can you pay this?" Derek's face was red. "No, it's an ambush. He waited years to do this. Waited until you tried to extort him for access to his grandchildren." David interrupted. "Yes, I have the text messages. Sarah provided them along with several recordings of you threatening her father, making financial demands, and discussing ways to punish both Sarah and her father for not complying with your wishes." That was new. Sarah had been recording. She'd been gathering evidence. Derek's lawyer looked sick. "I need to consult with my client privately." They went into another room. Raised voices carried through the door. When they came back, Derek looked defeated. "We'll agree to a payment plan," his lawyer said. $2,000 a month until the debt is cleared." "No," I said. Everyone looked at me. "No," I repeated. "I want the full amount. I want the house." "That's unreasonable," Derek's lawyer protested. "You know what's unreasonable? Charging a grandfather $3,000 a month to see his granddaughters, threatening to cut off access to young children as a form of manipulation, using a home my money purchased as a weapon against my family. That's unreasonable." David smiled. He'd coached me on this. "My client is willing to offer one alternative. Mr. Derek Matthews can sign over all rights and interests in the property. He can remove himself from the mortgage with Sarah refinancing in her name only with Mr. Robert Mitchell as co-signer. He can vacate the property within 60 days and in exchange will forgive the debt." Derek's face went from red to purple. "You want me to give up my house where my kids live?" "It's not your house," David said calmly. "It never was. And the kids," I added, "they'll stay right where they are with their mother in their home. You're the only one who needs to leave, Derek." Sarah would never agree to this. "Actually," a voice said from the doorway. "I already have." Sarah walked in. She'd been listening, waiting for her cue. She sat down next to me, took my hand. "I've consulted with a family lawyer," she said, voice steady despite the trembling I could feel through her hand. "I'm filing for divorce. I'm seeking full custody of Emma and Sophie with supervised visitation for you until you complete anger management counseling, and I'm moving forward with refinancing the house in my name with my father as co-signer." Derek stared at her like he'd never seen her before. "You can't do this." "I can. I am. You've spent 3 years trying to control me, trying to isolate me from my father, trying to make me feel like I owe you something for being my husband. But I don't. I owe you nothing and I'm done." The legal process took 4 months. Derek fought at first, tried, snorts, to claim Sarah had been manipulated by me, that I was a controlling father who'd never let her grow up. But the recording Sarah had made told a different story. Hours of Derek insulting her, belittling her, threatening her, discussing ways to punish her for seeing me or letting the girls spend time with me. The judge was not sympathetic to Derek. "You attempted to extort the plaintiff for access to his grandchildren. You used minor children as leverage in a financial dispute. You created a hostile environment in the family home. And you failed to disclose the true ownership status of said home to your wife, allowing her to believe you were equal partners in a property you had no legal claim to." Derek was ordered to vacate within 30 days. The divorce proceedings were fast-tracked. Given the evidence of emotional abuse, Sarah got full custody. Derek got supervised visitation every other weekend. Once he completed a court-mandated counseling program, the refinancing took a bit longer. Sarah's income as a nurse was good, and with me as co-signer, the bank approved her for a mortgage that paid off the existing one. I forgave the promissory note debt and transferred the title to Sarah. The house was hers now, really hers. Derek moved into a small apartment in Scarborough. He sees Emma and Sophie, but always with a supervisor present, always in neutral locations. Emma, who's 8 and understands more than we sometimes realize, told me she's glad Daddy isn't always angry now. Sophie, only 5, mostly just seems happy that Sunday dinners with Grandpa are back. Today is Sunday. I'm at the house. My house that's now Sarah's house. The house where my granddaughters live. Sarah's making roast chicken. Emma's helping her, carefully basting the bird like I taught her. Sophie's sitting at the kitchen table coloring a picture of our family. She's drawn herself, Emma, Sarah, and a big figure she's labeled Grandpa in crooked letters. You're very tall in this picture, I tell her, smiling. That's because you're the biggest, Sophie says seriously. The biggest and the strongest. Mommy said you protected us. I feel tears prick my eyes. Your mommy's pretty strong, too, Sophie girl. Sarah looks over from the stove. Her eyes meet. She smiles. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. Dad, she says, can you stay over tonight? The girls want to watch a movie with you, and it's supposed to snow. I don't want you driving home in bad weather. Of course, I say. I'll stay in the guest room. Your room. Emma corrects, looking up from the chicken. Remember, Mom? We said it's Grandpa's room. That's right, Sarah says. Grandpa's room. It's always been Grandpa's room. After dinner, after the movie, after tucking both girls into bed with stories and kisses, Sarah and I sit in the living room. She's curled up on the couch with tea. I'm in the old armchair I'd moved over from my house. Do you regret it? She asks suddenly. The way you handled everything, it was pretty aggressive. I think about it. About the envelope on the kitchen table, about Derek's face. When he realized his control was an illusion. About the months of legal battles, about the look in Sophie's eyes when she asked why Daddy was always angry. No, I say. I don't regret protecting my family. I don't regret standing up to a bully. I don't regret fighting for my right to love my granddaughters. That's not something I'll ever regret. Sarah nods, sips her tea. He called last week. Derek, he wanted to apologize. Did he? He said he was sorry. That the counseling is helping. That he didn't realize how controlling he'd become. How his own fears about not being good enough had turned into this need to dominate everything. He said he understands now why you did what you did. Do you believe him? She thinks about it. I believe he's trying. Whether he'll actually change, I don't know. But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is making sure Emma and Sophie grow up knowing they're loved, knowing they're safe, knowing they never have to accept being controlled or diminished by anyone. You're doing a good job, Sarah. You're an amazing mother. I learned from the best, she says softly. Mom, and you showed me what love looks like. Real love. Not the kind with conditions and prices. Not the kind that demands payment, just love. We sit in comfortable silence. Snow begins to fall outside. Gentle flakes catching the porch light. Somewhere upstairs, Emma calls out in her sleep. Sarah starts to get up, but I wave her back. I'll check on her, I say. I climb the stairs quietly. Emma's kicked off her blankets. I tuck them back around her, kiss her forehead. She mumbles something about pancakes. I smile. Sunday morning pancakes. Our tradition. Sophie's room is next door. She's sleeping with approximately 7 stuffed animals. Her arm around a large teddy bear I'd given her for her 4th birthday. The drawing from earlier is taped to her wall. Our family safe together. I stand in the hallway between their rooms. This house I bought with money I'd saved over decades. This house I nearly lost to a man who thought ownership was about names on documents rather than love and sacrifice and presence. My phone buzzes. A text from my son James in Calgary. Thinking about flying out next month. The kids want to see their cousins. Can we stay with you or should I book a hotel? I text back. Stay at Sarah's. Plenty of room. The kids would love it because this isn't just my house or Sarah's house. It's our family's house. It's where Sunday dinners happen and Christmas mornings begin and pancakes are made on weekends and granddaughters draw pictures of the people who love them. Derek thought he could put a price on that. $3,000 a month, he'd said, as if love could be bought or sold. As if family was a transaction. I gave him an envelope. Inside was the truth. That you can't charge someone for love, but you can be held accountable for debts, that you can't control people with threats, but you can lose everything trying. That sometimes the price of your greed is higher than you ever imagined paying. The snow falls heavier now that I go downstairs, say goodnight to Sarah, and retire to my room, Grandpa's room, in my daughter's house, where my granddaughters sleep safely that I pull out my wallet before I sleep. Inside is a photo of Margaret taken a year before she died that she's laughing at something I'd said, her eyes bright with joy that I touch her face gently. I protected them that I whispered to the photo, our girls, our grandbabies, just like you'd want me to that I like to think she's proud that I like to think she's watching over all of us. Making sure that envelope I gave Derek led to this that a house full of love instead of control that a family healing instead of fracturing, and 2 little girls who'll grow up knowing their grandfather fought for them that's worth more than any amount of money that's worth everything. The snow continues to fall outside, blanketing the city in white. Inside, we're warm that we're safe that we're together, and no one, not Derek or anyone else, will ever put a price on that.